emotional intelligence is about using your emotions in an intelligent way. So to get the most out of your relationships in the workplace and indeed even with yourself. Companies like BSkyB, Deloitte, Grant Thornton in the UK, PwC, L'Oreal, Sheraton Hotels, they have all built emotional intelligence training into their leadership programs. The results that they've seen is an increase in staff retention, for example, turnover, customer satisfaction, and all of these things are vital to all our businesses all the time. The emotional intelligence program that I provide helps individuals to understand what their emotional intelligence strengths are, because we should play to our strengths, and also those areas for development. What you often find are those are the areas that hold people back from being their very best selves at work. So it might be perhaps lack of self-confidence, maybe the inability to deal with change, which is going on in all organisations all the time. It could be even just building a network of relationships to help you on your career path or in building and growing your businesses. So what I do is I provide a measurement of that through the Emotional Capital Report and a series of coaching which helps the individual understand those strengths and weaknesses and build a development plan to help them to develop them further into the future. So emotional intelligence can help you to, for example, improve sales in your organisation. And you might wonder, well, how will it do that? Emotional intelligence is made up of 10 competencies. One of those is empathy, another one is self-awareness, flexibility would be another one. So it's the ability of the person to be able to build all of those competencies up into a very strong base. So if you can show empathy with your customer, for example, and that's not just being very superficial about it, that's really, really deeply understanding the needs of your customer, then you have the ability to develop what they need and deliver to them spot on. If, for example, you needed to develop something like optimism, optimistic salespeople outsell their less optimistic ones by 35%. And optimism is not about being all rosy in the garden. It's about being able to come back time and again and persevere and finding that silver lining in the cloud. So what I do is I perform with the individual or indeed with the team the Emotional Capital Report. And what that is a systemised report which allows you to identify your strengths and your weaknesses and to develop those weaknesses further, but also to build on your strengths. If you're a salesperson, for example, you really need to be empathic with your customers. There's no two ways about that. You need to be optimistic and you absolutely need to have good self-awareness. So initially what I would do is I would do a workshop for an organisation. Now they have the ability to invite in whoever they want to that because part of my mission is just to spread the importance of emotional intelligence in all companies. But then they might just decide, look, we'll have 3 of our managers actively work on it. So what they would do is they would each take an Emotional Capital Report 360. Now that's a report where they would answer, it's an online report, where they would answer a number of questions around how they behave at typical times. And what they would do is they would choose a number of their peers or the direct reports or their boss and so on to also answer those self-same questions. And what you get is a very succinct report with a graph on it with each of the 10 competencies of emotional intelligence and where you are, whether it's a development area or whether it's a signature strength on that competency. And what you also get is where your peers, boss, other raters also see you. Now, of course, the big learning is the gap between how you see yourself and how others see you. And that is where you really make powerful gains personally and organisationally, because people are often perceived themselves not to be as good as they come across, and of course vice versa. So it's coaching in that gap. So what I would typically do then is have maybe 4 to 6 sessions, and they can be bi-weekly or they can be once a month. People usually choose about every 3 weeks, where I would meet the person and we would actively work on certain goals around some of those competencies and actually growing them. And what they come away with is an action plan on how to take that further once I have stepped out of the frame.